Good morning everyone. Welcome to BioWorld. Today's topic is Life Processes Part 1. On our planet Earth, there are living things and non-living things. How do they differ? Unlike the non-living things, living things perform certain activities. These activities are called life processes. Why do they perform these activities? For their survival, or to keep them alive, or to maintain the balance of their body. What are the examples for these life processes? Nutrition, respiration, transportation and excretion. You will learn in depth all these four life processes in this chapter. First one, nutrition. We all need energy to do the work. Even though we are sleeping or taking rest, we need energy. From where do we get energy? From the food we eat, no doubt on that. The food contains certain components in them. These components are called nutrients. These nutrients give us nourishment. So next step in nutrition is mode of nutrition. Mode means method of nutrition. Mode of nutrition differ in different organisms. Here we can broadly classify the mode of nutrition into two. Which are they? First one is autotrophic mode of nutrition and second one is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. Here, how can we define autotrophic mode of nutrition? It is a type of nutrition in which a living organism prepares their own food with the help of inorganic materials present in their surrounding. Then, in the case of heterotrophic mode of nutrition, it's a type of nutrition in which they are unable to prepare their own food. They depend on other organisms for their nourishment, for their food. So, autotrophs are the organism, they can prepare their own food. What are the examples for autotrophs? Let us see. First one is green plants. Green plants. These green plants, they have special pigment in them. What is that pigment called? Chlorophyll. They possess a special capacity. What is that capacity? Chlorophyll can absorb sun's energy. With the help of the sun's energy, they prepare their own food. That process is called photosynthesis. Next example is blue-green algae. These algae also contain special pigments in them. They absorb sun's energy and they prepare their own food. Third category is cyanobacteria. They don't have a pigment in them, but they derive energy from the chemicals present in the atmosphere or chemicals present in their environment. They can also prepare their own food with the help of these chemicals. Then, when the source of energy is sun, we can call them as photoautotrophs. In the case of green plants and blue-green algae, the source of energy is sun. So, they are called photoautotrophs. Here, the source of energy is chemical. So, we can call them as chemo autotrophs. Let us see in detail the process of photosynthesis, that is the preparation of food in the case of green plants. Before going into the details of photosynthesis, we should see the structure of leaf. You all know all the living organisms are made up of different types of cells, millions of cells in them. A group of cells together form a tissue. A group of tissue together form an organ. A group of organs together form an organ system. Isn't it so? Before getting into the details of photosynthesis, let us look into the structure of a leaf. Why? Because leaf is the site of photosynthesis. If we take a leaf and cut across and put it under a microscope, we can see many layers of cells. These cells assist in the process of photosynthesis. Look at this picture. This is the cross section of a leaf. You can see an upper epidermis. This layer is called upper epidermis. Epidermis is a Greek word meaning outer skin. This epidermis is made up of rectangular parenchymatous cells. This epidermis is protected by a waxy coating called cuticle. This is cuticle. It is made up of wax. Just like this upper epidermis, you can see a lower epidermis too. Lower epidermis. Lower epidermis is also made up of rectangular parenchymatous cells. The tissue in between the upper epidermis and lower epidermis is called mesophyll tissue. In the mesophyll tissue, on the top part, we can see closely packed rectangular parenchymatous cell. These cells are called palisade parenchyma. What is the peculiarity of this palisade parenchyma? They contain lot of chloroplast in them. Chloroplast contain chlorophyll pigment. This chloroplast is the actual site of photosynthesis. Just below the palisade parenchyma, we can see many layers of parenchymatous cells with a lot of intercellular spaces. So, these layers of cells are called spongy parenchyma. Why do we call them spongy parenchyma? Because they contain many intercellular spaces. These intercellular spaces are for the storage of gases like oxygen, carbon dioxide and water vapor, and the food prepared by the leaf. In the spongy parenchyma, you can see a circular structure here. This structure is called vascular bundle. What is that? Vascular bundle. If again you look at a leaf, the lower side, you can see midvein and many side veins. This vascular bundle we can see in the region of the vein. This vascular bundle contains an outer covering called pericycle. This outer covering is called pericycle, and inside you can see two types of tissues. The upper xylem tissue and this lower phloem tissue. You all know roots absorb water from the soil. This water is transported towards the leaf for the process of photosynthesis. That work is done by the xylem. Xylem is transporting the water from root to the leaf, the actual site of photosynthesis. What is the function of phloem? The food prepared by the leaf is transporting to the different parts of the plant. That work is done by the phloem. They help in the transportation of food prepared by the leaf. In the lower epidermis, we can see some special structures called stomata. What is the function of stomata? They help in the process of gaseous exchange. Which are the gases being exchanged here? Carbon dioxide, oxygen and water vapor. Then Stomata is the plural and single structure is called a stoma. Each stoma contains two guard cell and a stomatal pore. This guard cell control the opening and closing of the stomatal pore. How do they do that? These guard cells absorb water from the surrounding cell and they swell up. When they swell up, these cells become turgid, resulting in the opening of the stomatal pore. When they expel water, they become flaccid. They shrink and they become flaccid, resulting in the closing of the stomatal pore. This stomatal pore remains open when the plants need carbon dioxide for the process of photosynthesis and when they have to expel out water vapor and oxygen. Otherwise, the stomatal pore remains closed. Next topic is significance of photosynthesis. The green plants, they possess a special ability to prepare their own food. All other living organisms directly or indirectly depends on green plants for their survival. And photosynthesis helps to maintain a balance between carbon dioxide and oxygen in the atmosphere. Photosynthesis is the process by which green plants prepare the food from the raw materials like carbon dioxide and water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Let me explain the process of photosynthesis with the help of a simple equation. Look at this equation. Here, carbon dioxide plus water in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll gives us carbohydrate, oxygen and water vapor. Here carbon dioxide and water are the reactants or raw materials. What are the byproducts here? Carbohydrate, oxygen and water. Which are the events taking place in the process of photosynthesis? Water is absorbed by the root. This water is transported towards the leaf by the xylem cells. So first raw material is water that is absorbed by the root and transported by the xylem cells. Next raw material is carbon dioxide. That carbon dioxide enters into the leaf through the stomatal pores. Then what is the next step? Sun's light or sun's energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll pigment and this chlorophyll pigment is activated, resulting in the hydrolysis of water. What is hydrolysis of water? Splitting of water molecule. As a result, we get hydrogen and oxygen. And this hydrogen is used in the reduction of carbon dioxide. And carbon dioxide is converted into, this is not a balanced equation. You have learned in your chemistry class about the balancing of equation. Now let us see, this carbon dioxide is reduced into carbohydrate. Look at the difference between this carbon dioxide and carbohydrate. Here you can see the carbon atom, oxygen atom. Here also you can see the carbon atom and oxygen atom. What is there in addition? This is hydrogen. The addition of hydrogen is called what? Reduction reaction. You have learned in chemistry lesson 1 what is reduction and what is oxidation. Addition of hydrogen is called reduction and addition of oxygen is called oxidation. Here addition of hydrogen is taking place, so the carbon dioxide is reduced into carbohydrate. Then what happened to this carbohydrate? This carbohydrate immediately changes into starch and is stored in the storage organs. So what are the events taking place in the process of photosynthesis? First one is absorption of sunlight by the chlorophyll. This chlorophyll pigment get excited resulting in the hydrolysis of water. Hydrolysis of water. Water split into hydrogen and oxygen. Then this hydrogen is used for the reduction of carbon dioxide, and that is converted into carbohydrate. So here this sun's energy, sunlight, is converted into chemical energy. What is the chemical here? Carbohydrate. Sun's energy is converted into chemical energy in the process of photosynthesis. This carbohydrate is converted into starch and is stored in the storage organs. Next mode of nutrition is heterotrophic mode of nutrition. How can we define heterotrophic mode of nutrition? It is a type of nutrition in which an organism obtains or derives nutrients from another organism. Heterotrophic mode of nutrition are of three types. Which are they? Saprophytic, parasitic and holozoic. Sapro means rotten. Here the saprophytes derives energy from the rotten organic materials in their surroundings. They produce some digestive enzymes into this rotten material, resulting in the digestion of the rotten materials, and this digested food they are ingesting, and the ingested food then assimilates into the surrounding cells. So in the case of saprophytic mode of nutrition, we can see three distinct steps. Which are they? First one is digestion. They secrete some digestive enzyme into the rotten organic materials in the soil or in the surroundings, and first step is the digestion of that rotten organic material. This digested food is then ingested. So next step is ingestion of the digested food. After injecting the digested food, they get assimilated. So next step is assimilation. Examples for saprophytes are decomposers like bacteria, insects like housefly, fungus, etc. When we talk about fungus, let us see the example of a mushroom. Look at the structure of a mushroom. Mushroom got a cap-like anterior part that is called pilus. It has a stem-like stipe. From the base of the stipes, they produce root-like mycelium. These myceliums produce some digestive enzymes. They secrete digestive enzymes into the surrounding rotten organic materials. So they get digested, and that digested food is absorbed by the mycelium and assimilates into the surrounding cell. Then if we take an example of a housefly, this housefly also produce digestive enzyme into the food outside. That food get digested, then they are ingesting that digested food and assimilates into the cells. So all these cases of saprophytic mode of nutrition, we can see three distinct stages, which are the digestion, ingestion and assimilation. Let me clear the board. Next mode of nutrition is parasitic mode of nutrition. In parasitic mode of nutrition, an organism lives on or inside the body of another organism and derives nutrients from them. Example for parasites are leech, tick, mosquitoes, tapeworm, roundworm, etc. When the leech sucks blood from the human body, human being is the host and leech is the parasite. And here leech and tick, They are found on the surface of the body. So they are called ectoparasite. They are called ectoparasite. And tapeworm and roundworm, they both live inside the body. So they are called endoparasite. When the leech sucks the blood, what they are doing? We don't feel it. Why? Because they produce an anesthetic enzymes. So we don't feel the bite. Once they bite into the host body, they use sucker and mucus to hold on the host body, and they again produce an anticoagulant called hirudin into the bloodstream to ensure that the flow of blood is continuous. You all know, if we have a small injury, our body recovers very fast. How? The body control the flow of blood with the coagulation of the blood. The blood has a capacity to clot very fast. Here, the leech prevent that clotting by the secretion of hirudin. What they secrete? Anticoagulant and hirudin into the bloodstream. And this tapeworm and roundworm, they live inside our intestine. And our small intestine, there is digested food. So they absorb nutrients from the digested food. This way, this parasite derives food from the host. Cuscuta is an example of an ectoparasitic plant. Cuscuta. In Cuscuta, the plant body is an yellow filamentous twine-like structure. With the help of this filamentous structure, they wrap around the host plant. They wrap around the host plant, and this filamentous structure produce these root-like structures, hostoria. They produce root-like structures called hostoria, and this hostoria penetrate into the vascular bundles of the host plant and they absorb nutrients from them. All these are examples of parasitic mode of nutrition. Next is the holozoic mode of nutrition. In this type of nutrition, an organism take in the food as a whole, holozoic, then break it and digest it inside the body. Here, digestion is taking place inside the body of an organism. Amoeba, paramecium and almost all higher animals are following this holozoic mode of nutrition. Let us see the different steps in holozoic nutrition with an example. Look at the picture. It's an amoeba. Amoeba, they got an outer covering called cell membrane and inner cytoplasm. They are unicellular organism. This single cell is performing all the life activities. And here you can see a nucleus and vacuole and lysosomes. So many cell organelles you can see inside. Amoeba doesn't have a definite shape. Why? Because the cytoplasm always protrude out through the cell membrane as pseudopodium. What is the pseudopodium? Pseudo means false. Podium is feet. It is a false feet. Because maybe at times it protrude this side or that side, here or there, like that. So amoeba doesn't have a definite shape. This pseudopodium surrounds the food particle. They feed on microscopic organism. They surrounds the food particle. They fuses with the food particle and form the food vacuole. Digested juices are secreted inside this food vacuole. The food get digested inside the food vacuole and the digested food is absorbed and get assimilated into the cell by the process of diffusion. Then this food vacuole along with the undigested food move towards cell membrane and eject out the undigested food. This is the process of nutrition in the case of amoeba. It is an example of a holozoic mode of nutrition. Which are the different steps here? First one is ingestion. The food is injecting in with the help of pseudopodium. So first step is ingestion. Then what happened to that food? Digestion is taking place inside the food vacuole. So the second step is digestion. After that, the digested food is absorbed. So next step is absorption. Then assimilation and digestion of the undigested food. So we can see 5 different steps in the process of holozoic mode of nutrition. Then another example is paramecium. Paramecium is also a unicellular organism in the shape of a slipper like this, and the outer covering is called pellicle. This pellicle is covered by hair-like cilia, and on one side of the body you can see a groove-like structures. And there is an opening here. That opening is called anal pore. This is the gastric groove. And with the help of this cilia, movement of the cilia, this paramecium push the food materials along with water inside, and food get into this gastric groove. And once the food reach the cytoplasm, they fuses with the food vacuole, and digestive juices are produced inside this food vacuole, and food get digested here and absorbed and assimilated into the cell by a process of diffusion. So even here you can see all these steps. The food is ingesting in and digestion is taking place inside the food vacuole. After digestion, the food get absorbed and assimilated. So in both the cases you can see 5 different steps. This is a holozoic mode of nutrition. In amoeba and paramecium, the single cell performs all the life activities. But the higher organisms like human being, they have separate system for different life activities. In human, there is a complex digestive system for the process of nutrition. Human digestive system start with the mouth. That mouth continues down into a tubular structure. This tubular structure is made up of muscles. That tubular structure is called esophagus. Esophagus. It is almost 25 cm long. This esophagus continues down into a bag-like structure. This bag-like structure is called stomach. Stomach continues down into a coiled structure called, highly coiled structure is called small intestine. This highly coiled structure is small intestine. And the small intestine continues as the large intestine, and at last it open out into a structure called, this opening is called anus. This one is large intestine. The posterior end of the large intestine, this part, the undigested food gets stored. This part is called rectum. Then human digestive system start at the mouth. This mouth contain many structures. They are teeth, tongue and salivary glands. The accessory glands of human digestive system are salivary glands in the mouth, and then the liver and pancreas at the junction of stomach and small intestine. And here liver is the largest organ in our body, and then many gastric glands inside the stomach, inside or on the inner lining of the stomach. And here we have 3 pairs of salivary glands, one on either side of our upper jaw, and the second pair on either side of our lower jaw, and the third pair just below our tongue. And here these salivary glands produce what? Saliva. Salivary glands produce, these are salivary glands. Salivary glands, they produce saliva. The saliva contain some special enzyme called amylase. That amylase enzyme helps in the digestion of carbohydrate or starch. They convert starch into sugar. Have you ever noticed a sweet aftertaste when we chew on starch for a longer time? If not, you should try it. You take a spoonful of cooked rice and chew on it. You can feel a sweet taste. Why? Cooked rice contains starch. This starch is converted into sugar with the help of amylase enzyme present in the saliva. Because of that, we get that sweet taste. After the food has been chewed and mixed with saliva, it passes from mouth to esophagus. Esophagus is a muscular tube. Through esophagus, food reaches the stomach. How the food move from mouth to the stomach through the esophagus? Because the wall of the esophagus is made up of muscles. Due to the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of this muscle, the food pushes into the stomach. The wall of the esophagus push down the food by rhythmic contraction and relaxation. That process is called, that movement is called peristaltic movement. Movement is called peristaltic movement. How can we define peristaltic movement? It is the rhythmic contraction and relaxation of the muscles of the alimentary canal that pushes the food forward. Then from the mouth, food through the esophagus, food reaches the stomach. The stomach contains many gastric glands in the inner lining of the stomach. These gastric glands produce hydrochloric acid, then pepsin and mucus. There are separate gastric glands for the secretion of hydrochloric acid, pepsin and mucus. So in the stomach, the gastric glands secrete HCl, pepsin and mucus. Let us see what is the function of this HCl. What is this HCl? Is hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid. See, when we eat the food may contain some germs. Okay, these germs are killed by hydrochloric acid. And at the same time, this hydrochloric acid make a medium, an acidic medium, for the good performance of pepsin. Pepsin is an enzyme produced by stomach, but for its performance, or they act in the presence of acidic medium. They act very well in the presence of an acidic medium. Who is doing that duty? This HCl is making that acidic medium for the reaction of pepsin. So hydrochloric acid kill the germs and make acidic medium. Then what is the function of pepsin? Amino acids are the basic units of protein. Many amino acids together form a polypeptide chain. Many polypeptide chains together form a protein. When a protein gets digested completely, protein changes into amino acids. its simpler unit. But here, with the help of pepsin enzyme, the protein get digested into polypeptide chains. So, the partial breakdown of protein takes place here in the stomach. Third secretion is mucus. This mucus protects the inner lining of the stomach from the action of HCl. So, the function is protection of inner lining of the stomach wall. Exit of food from the stomach into the small intestine is controlled by a muscular sphincter. We can see sphincter muscle at the junction of the stomach and small intestine. This sphincter allows a small amount of food into the small intestine at a time. Let us see the importance of accessory glands like liver and pancreas. The liver and pancreas is located in the junction of stomach and small intestine. The liver is the largest organ in our body. This liver secretes bile. That bile is stored in the gallbladder. Here the green colored part is gallbladder. That gallbladder store the secretion of liver. Secretion of liver is called bile. And then you can see the pancreas. The liver and pancreas produce many digestive enzymes and they assist in the process of digestion. Let us see here the liver. Liver produce bile. That bile is stored in the gallbladder. That bile contain bile juice and bile salt. So they produce bile. First of all, that bile contain bile juice and bile salt. What is the function of this bile juice? That bile juice make the medium alkaline. In the stomach, the medium is acidic due to the presence of HCl. But here the pancreas also produce many enzymes. That enzymes need an alkaline medium for its function. So here bile juice produce the medium alkaline. And the bile salt, what is the function of bile salt? These bile salts help in the breakdown of bigger fat globules into smaller one. That process is called emulsification. Emulsification of fat helps in the easier digestion of the fat further. Accessory organ is pancreas. Pancreas produce pancreatic enzymes. These pancreatic enzymes contain trypsin, then lipase and pancreatic amylase. The amylase produced by salivary gland is salivary amylase. Here the amylase produced by pancreas is pancreatic amylase. What is the function of trypsin? Here trypsin. The trypsin and the word pepsin both rhymes. So you remember that both trypsin and pepsin assist in the process of protein digestion. See, this protein contain many polypeptide chains. These polypeptide chains in turn contain many amino acids. So, amino acids are the basic unit of protein. Here in the stomach, pepsin did the breakdown of protein into polypeptide chains. So the partial digestion of protein take place in the stomach. Later on, with the help of pancreatic enzyme trypsin, these polypeptide chains further break down into amino acids. The second enzyme produced by pancreas is lipase. Lipase is an enzyme used for the digestion of lipid or fat. Fat is otherwise called lipid. This enzyme is called lipase. They help in the breakdown of fat into what? Fat into glycerol and fatty acid. So glycerol and fatty acids are the basic unit of fat. And then pancreatic amylase. This amylase helps in the breakdown of carbohydrate into sugar. Carbohydrates into sugar. The basic unit of carbohydrate is sugar. So pancreatic amylase helps in the breakdown of carbohydrates into simple sugar. Now all the ingredients, all the nutrients in the food, which are they? Protein, fats and carbohydrates, they have been broken down into simpler forms. That is protein into amino acid, fat into glycerol and fatty acid, and carbohydrates into sugar. With the help of all these digestive enzymes, the food has been broken down into simpler units. Now it is time for absorption. Without absorption, all the nutrients are useless. Now the process of absorption takes place in the small intestine. Small intestine is the highly coiled structure here. In the anterior end of the small intestine, C-shaped structure. This anterior end is a C-shaped structure. The ducts of both the pancreas and liver emptied its content into the anterior end of the small intestine. So trypsin, lipase, bile, all these secretions are getting into the small intestine and their action is done in the small intestine. Small intestine is a highly coiled structure. Length of the small intestine is almost 6 meters. In the herbivorous animals, they eat grass. The grass contains cellulose. Cellulose takes lot of time for digestion. So these herbivorous animals, they need a longer small intestine. But in the case of carnivores, the meat is easier to digest and they have smaller small intestine. The length of the small intestine is lesser when compared to herbivores. The digested food is absorbed by the inner wall of the small intestine. Inner wall of the small intestine contain several finger-like folded structures. These finger-like structures are called villi. Villus is the singular here. See, the inner wall, if it is a continuous wall, the surface area is minimum. If it is folded, look here, the surface area will increase. See, the surface area will increase. These villus are richly supplied with blood vessels. Many blood vessels we can see in the region. These blood vessels carry absorbed food and assimilated into each and every cell of the body. There it is utilized for deriving energy or repairing the worn out cells or for the growth of the new cells. Small intestine opens into the large intestine. Large intestine has an ascending part, a transverse part and a descending part, and at the posterior end of the large intestine you can see rectum. Here we are storing the undigested food material. That rectum opens out through anus. Anus is the opening at the posterior end of the large intestine. Why it is called large intestine? Because length of the small intestine is 6 meters. The length of the large intestine is only 1.5 meters. Even then we are calling this as large intestine and this highly coiled structure as small intestine. Why? The lumen or inside area, this is the lumen of large intestine. Here also we can see folded structures, but here the lumen is larger. This is large intestine and this is small intestine. In small intestine and and large intestine, we can see many folded structures in the inner wall. They are called villi. Here this villi help in the absorption of digested food. Here this villi help in the digestion of extra water in the unabsorbed food. This unabsorbed food from the small intestine enters into the large intestine. When the food enters the large intestine, this villi absorb water from the unabsorbed food. Then the remaining part is stored in the rectum and occasionally expel out through the opening called anus. Here we can see 5 distinct steps in the process of nutrition. Which are they? Because the human being follow the which mode of nutrition? Holozoic mode of nutrition. Which are the 5 distinct steps in that? Ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation and egestion. Here ingestion of the food is taking place through the mouth. Then after ingesting the food get digested inside the stomach and small intestine, and the digested food get absorbed and assimilated through the wall of the small intestine. And after the absorption of water in the large intestine, the undigested or unwanted food is ejecting. They eject out through an opening called anus. Hope it is clear for everyone. Bye till we meet with the next video. If you have any further questions or suggestion, please drop a comment in the comment section below. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe.